support some different AD carries. We've seen Nymeara Ashe come out from Weibo, and that destroyed laning phase very, very early on. You can't ever miss a beat though, and that's the problem. With something like a Senna, you can kind of take a lump or two in the early game and still overcome it. Something like that Ashe, despite the fact that we've seen T1 win a world championship playing that style, you can't really afford to make mistakes. And that maybe means that some of these teams, which we've talked quite extensively about, needing to zero in on those impositions and figuring out how they want to play as a team, maybe that means that some of our teams which are less confident in straight 2v2 go away from that pick and instead go towards stuff like the Varus, the Kalista, the Senna, which are quite easy to put on rails and play through. That's likely what we're going to see from Photic and Zhuo.
So the Varus is locked in, as well as that Xin Zhao, which has been, I'd say, the premium jungler. We've seen a little bit of the Jax as well, as an answer to that Xin Zhao that we saw right at the start of the split, kind of vanished for a bit. Does seem like it's sort of back. But the Maokai locked in for life, that he got his highlight play and saved the game against Top Esports Game 3 on. And then we get the Nico for care as well.
I'm a little bit surprised that we didn't see the Cassante locked in already here from FPX. If you lock in the Senna Maokai, potentially with the Maokai flex, and then the Cassante topside, kind of forces the Varus to go into on-hit rather than poke, and it means that you're in a massive range disadvantage. I'd imagine it's probably Cassante third here for Shanji. It's going to be a little bit different. Instead, potentially hovering over some engage for the rest of it. Zhuo going to pick up that rel. I think Cassante is now probably hitting the ban list in the second round.
Yeah, wouldn't be too surprising to see that. One thing to note as well on the Maokai pick, Maokai is actually still MilkyWay's most played jungler at 4 picks. You know, it's very contested. There's Lee Sin on 4, Sichuani and Xin Zhao on 3 as well, so it's not by any massive margin, but it's possible to flex that into the jungle. I would expect Life to take it, but VA got banned away from MilkyWay. His Kindred's already been targeted too, so really trying to remove those carries. Graves could be another option if that is the goal from NIP.
I think this is completely fine, because the thing is, FPX are a team that typically succeed when MilkyWay is very aggressive, up in your face, and making plays happen. If you're on something like a Maokai, and in this case, if you're banning away junglers in the second round, it forces you onto the Maokai, which means you make less plays up until the level 6 mark. That gives you a good window of time in the early game for Arky to be the pace setter for the game on the Xin Zhao. So now we see the Viega being removed. Would be interested to see if there's something like the Lee Sin removed too, just to remove MilkyWay's impact on the early game, which FPX have so typically relied on.
I'm going to be removed, as the Cassante still wide open. Not seeing that ban just yet. Bans towards the mid lane with that LeBlanc. See if it is going to be another mid lane blank, because the Orianna is open and available. Rel is locked in for NIP. It works well with the Xin Zhao.
Very true.
It's Rookie's Orianna as well. I'd be a little bit nervous about that potential mid lane pick if I was on the side of FPX, but it would mean that Cassante goes through. In fact, I'm going to ban the Talia instead.
Talia's been something which Rookie's used an awful lot. The global pressure and the use of the wall, being able to kind of separate team fights, very effective. So, mid lane and top lane for NIP yet to be locked in. And we might just see the Shanji locked in once more. Again, I'm really surprised it's fallen so far down in this draft. It's going to be on this 4th pick, especially when you've got champions like Varus in the game. Either frontlining for him or frontlining against him is really quite important. And Shanji now gets one of his most successful picks.
So one thing that is available is the Fiora for Xioalaohu. He's played it 3 times already this split.
Oh, you like the 0-7 Fiora game that they beat Top Esports with?
That.
Do you like that?
That was a personal favourite, top 10 performance for me. Okay, Gwen comes in. This is something that we've been seeing a little bit more of. Back when Cassante first came out, this was one of the answers to the pick. We saw it yesterday as well. Didn't really have much of an impact on the game, but you can have an incredibly one-sided laning phase with that Gwen. We'll see what Xioalaohu can do.
And we also saw YSKM pick it up for IG and do some pretty nasty damage in their last series as well. It also gives you some team fight access to the backline, because your ult just travels through everyone. You've not got something to block out skill shots like that. And MilkyWay, of course, gets his Lee Sin as well. LDL jungler coming up to the LPL. We've talked about this guy being an absolute star for his team. He was on RNG's LDL roster, Royal Club. They still keep that name from the early days. And this Lee Sin is one of the champions he really made his name on. He's on an early playmaker. It feels like he can then baton pass over to Care. And then, of course, the Maokai in the support role as well to be engaged threats later on. It feels like FPX, there's a lot of comfort there. They've got a lot of good answers to what's been put out on the other side from the Ninjas in their home arena. But I'm still looking at K'Sante on Shanji as well. It feels like that is just such comfort that it is still worth talking about, despite the counter matchup.
The most important thing to mention there is the fact that you said K'Sante
on
Shanji instead of Shanji on
Shanji.
K'Sante. That really elaborates quite how much of a comfort pick it is. But on the opposite side, it's comfort for Xioalaohu as well, because Gwen, believe it or not, is actually Xioalaohu's most played champion in professional play. He has about a 50% win rate on the pick. It's not like he's always gone crazy, but something that he's extremely comfortable in, and locking it in for that counter matchup. So a bit of pressure on his shoulders to perform up against really one of the big name top laners these days on the side of NIP.
Shanji really has graduated from being a good top lane into being one of the elite top laners. Now, he is on one of his most successful picks in Game 1. That top lane matchup could be one of the biggest stories of this first game.
Not sure we're going to get Xio's for game number 1 in the end. We always have to lay out for them. Sometimes it's nice a little bit awkward. Yeah.
It's nice to check. And, you know, maybe they wake up throughout the day as well.
Yeah, and we will be in Shenzhen here. Oh, is that Xio's? No, just going to see the audience. Okay. We are in Shenzhen in NIP's arena, so you do anticipate a good amount of support from the crowd for NIP. But I think this FPX roster, at least within the Western audience, is building a bit of a fan base. I have to assume that it's the same within the audience over in China, just because, like, you know, Chinese fans love aggressive teams. I feel like FPX and especially MilkyWay have been one of the few teams in the LPL that is willing to push that envelope.
They are, and it feels like they've adapted better to the current season than a lot of other teams, and a lot of it is through this guy on the screen. I know we talk about him a lot, but we have to. He's so good, especially for how much work he's been doing for this team. He needs to really try and get an advantage for one of these snowbally kind of matchups. If you can get Care ahead, get him to multiple items, that'd be important. If you can get Xioalaohu ahead as well, that individual matchup could be so potent, being team fight and side lane viable against that K'Sante. NIP on the other side, I think if they get to just sit out this early game, fight for standard 5v5s and stop those side lane kind of angles being played through, I think they're pretty happy on the other side of it.
Yeah, you would expect so. Just want to point out the double Doran's items for FPX. This is, if you've been living under a rock a little bit, if you've been out of the loop on LPL, we are seeing this more often now, especially in center lanes, I've noticed, where you do need a little bit more presence. You want to be fighting for prio a little bit more. You won't necessarily win it automatically. The extra Doran's item does just give you a bit more presence there in that lane, and it does mean that. And then on the first reset, you grab your support item and go for the usual route for life, or actually probably in this matchup for Deokdam.
Yeah, because the thing is, support items don't give you stats. The stats don't help you fight, and particularly in pro play, the first few waves of bot lane are so important, and when you've got such aggressive junglers too, you just want to give them as much ability to play around the map as possible. It feels like, you know, obviously looking at it now, it's not going to be huge jungle intervention towards bot lane very early on. Deokdam and Life, they're just going to collect the wave at turrets, and they're going to be looking for their first reset a little later. MilkyWay hanging towards the top side of the map right now. Interested to see if he walks into the enemy jungle, puts down a ward to scout out Arky's second clear.
Yeah, and worth mentioning as well that as you're talking about MilkyWay pathing up towards this top side, a lot of that will be down to the fact that you've got Xioalaohu up there on this Gwen. You're going to get priority pretty much consistently against that K'Sante, aside from, you know, when the wave's crashing into you, etc., etc. But Care as well, able to get priority in the mid lane, means that MilkyWay has control of the top side. Grub's coming up in a minute and a half. I'm curious if he's just going to return to that top side, because it'll be his bottom camps that are spawn.
We'll have to see on that front, because it would be really nice to get the grubs for the side of FPX, because we're assuming that they're going to have side lane pressure, because you have the Gwen into the K'Sante, very good individual matchup. Even the Nico's pretty good at pushing in side lanes as well, and getting some chip damage on the turret with the grub buffs makes that even more potent. But still, no huge early plays being made by either team, and it feels like we're getting our first resets through, and we'll get a couple of buys in for a couple more stats for the first fights of the game.
Yeah, so far, support staying in that bottom lane. Grub's up in 45 seconds. And I feel like the game has changed a little bit in terms of like how obvious the plays are across the map. Like back in the day, if you had a Kalista lane, you're playing for Drakes, you know? Grubs have changed all of that now. People are roaming a lot more in in the very, very early levels to try and fight for grubs. Different teams have different levels of priority on grubs, because I feel like there's still, to some extent, debate on how valuable grubs are. If you ask different analysts, they'll have very different answers on how big of a priority grubs should be. And it feels like the teams are very much in that same space of having very different opinions on how much time and resource they want to put up to that top side.
I think the consensus is if you get 6 grubs, oh, you are chilling. That objective is so strong if you get all of them. But then you have to commit quite a lot to get to that, and it's a question of how much do you lose to get that. So then it's about the investment opportunity. Even just a couple of grubs, though, matter a lot if you're already winning a side lane, particularly when we saw a lot of AD LeBlanc and I suppose the ADTF, which we've seen as well being played. And sometimes stuff like the Gnar, which are ranged champions that can sit in side lanes, hit turrets for free. Then obviously they get to use the grub buffs pretty effectively. As we see right now, a bit of a fight in the mid lane 2v2.
Level 6 for Care flashes away from Rookie's Shockwave. Honestly, you're quite happy with that one. Jungler flash for enemy mid laner flash, especially when it's an eco you'll take.
The big thing which is going to happen here as well is because we don't really have ranged supports in bot lane, we have got the melee ones, they can roam a little bit differently. Flash and Flash Red bots, important to check up on that. And you see MilkyWay putting his head in towards those grubs, not able to steal away with a cheeky smite, and Zhuo on the melee support, as opposed to something like a Nami or a Renata, roams up early and makes a difference around the grubs.
Are we going to go for a dive here? Life, fortunately, tanks the tower a little bit early. That should dissuade anything. I'm not sure if they really could have dived anyway, to be honest. It felt like it would have been a tough one to pull off. But perhaps they can go for something with Photic taking a chunk, getting rooted. I don't think they're going to commit to anything. So anyway, Life staying down in the bottom lane. Zhuo roams up, and it does mean 3 grubs for NIP, despite that priority in mid and top that we talked about for FPX.
So this is actually a change we've seen largely this week in LPL. A little bit before this, well, we could even hinge this on the Ashe pick we talked about in draft, in terms of some teams are moving away from that style of support, because if you ever make a mistake on that kind of champion, it feels awful and you fall behind the game. Now, what that means is that we're seeing a lot more bot lane bans, less kind of blind picking 2v2, and a lot more melee supports, like Rel, like Alistair. And that means that they have a very different identity. They can ward things differently. They can roam a lot earlier, and something like this Rel for Draw means that he can look towards some early game plays as well, alongside Ashe. It just changes the entire way the game is played. And also one thing which I will ask everyone to keep an eye on as well, just look down on the mini-map and see that when we are seeing these roams, whether they're leaving any of those pesky wards around as well, because they can do that much easier than ranged supports.
They certainly can. And to be fair, like these engaged supports have always been... it depends on your opinion whether they're a crutch or a boon to LPL. Like, LPL loves an engaged support.
You don't like Nautilus?
We've never really been big Enchanter players, aside from when the meta absolutely demands it. So you definitely love to see the engaged supports coming back through. It does feel like teams are much more comfortable playing this style, having your support able to face check to some extent and help with that vision battle in a little bit more of a heavy-handed way. Definitely feels more down to the LPL style. MilkyWay, though, speaking of down, moving to the bottom lane, is level 6. Life is level 6 as well. He's not been spotted just yet. As he moves into this lane, this could be an opportunity.
I don't see any red pings on that bush, so it's not like they have any kind of incidental information. And the wards we were talking about being so important to keep track of have not managed to track MilkyWay, but won't be able to do anything right now. MilkyWay, of course, we talk about him an awful lot in terms of his impact on the early game. It's currently 8 minutes in. Hasn't really managed to do that much besides securing a dragon. And we'll see if he can really get himself on the board in the next few minutes.
Yeah, I would have loved to see Life just go into the brush there, as actually that's Photic's ultimate. Attempted all in there from NIP. Zhuo still only level 5 off the back of that roam that we were talking about before. Life is a level ahead because he was able to just stay in that bottom lane. So unfortunately, Zhuo doesn't have the all-in potential that perhaps you'd hope for. In the meantime, Xioalaohu could be in a 2v1 as Aki moves to this top side. Needlework going to be used. Xioalaohu is so damn fast with the Ghost.
Ghost for Ghost traded. We see this a lot in top lane right now. It feels like in the Aatrox matchups as well. A lot of the time, you're just going to throw out an ult and a Ghost, just hope for the best, see what happens. On the other side, though, Crossmat coming in from FPX. They have Care with ult, no flash. What can you do here? He's out of vision.
Should be at least one kill here. First blood to MilkyWay and Photic. There's no way he survives this one. A kill for Care as well. Beautiful answer on the bottom side. But Aki moves straight back up to this top lane. Wants to get something for his efforts. He showed on the top side before. He's showing here again. Xioalaohu has to try and survive the 2v1. He's going to be knocked around though. No ghost available and taken down by Shanji.
And Shanji gets a kill in a very important matchup. Xioalaohu doesn't have teleport to get back to this lane. Shanji can get a play out of this top lane out of turret. So while the cross map from FPX after the initial gank was really good to set up bot lane for success, feels like Shanji at least being able to get some gold in the individual matchup is also quite important for how this game will play out. Cap off a vision, gets a really good roam timing. He sacks a wave mid, but that's completely fine. One wave of 6 minions, 2 kills, it's about 20 or so in terms of gold, not even including the assist gold beyond that too. Much more valuable for him.
Fantastic stuff from K. Does mean he is pretty far down in minions. I guarantee that 20 CS lead is not just from the singular roam though. Rookie doing a great job during this laning phase to build himself a lead, as he always does. We're 10 minutes in, he's on 10 CS per minute. This is just Rookie things, and he's on his signature Oriana. You just know that he's going to have a good game, despite that first shockwave being a bit of a sombrero. I'm looking towards him and Zhuo as a combo, that magnet storm into the shockwave. Magnet wave, if you will. Zaki looking towards the 6 grubs here. This is pretty great. Oh, here we go, the combo we just talked about. And it takes FPX apart. MilkyWay, 1 HP, and Rookie will flash to finish the kill as Zhuo looks for a bit more onto Deokdam, and it's Aki to grab the bonus point.
NIP pull the trigger, and FPX are just not respectful enough of the rel coming out of the Fog of War. Great combo from Zhuo. It's going to open up 6 grubs to be taken from NIP. And one thing we said is that love him or hate him, 6 grubs is such a powerful buff. Teleport in from life and bot side. He has an ult, but he is currently alone versus Photic. I'm not sure how much he can force here, but it's a good amount of damage.
I'm pretty sure he wins this 1v1, honestly. Like, he's got armor, he's got a Barbie Cinder. What can you do as Varus in this 1v1 matchup? Life has just annihilated Photic. Support Life.
Life finds a way, somehow, just as this pesky Maokai support gets a great teleport onto a ward left in lane to kill off Photic. So NIP, it's been a bit of a give and take. Sadly for them, this rock of the bot lane, Photic and Zhuo, it's hard to get under their skin. But Photic, he's been falling quite far behind now. That's a bit of a concern for NIP. He's a lot of the continued DPS for this team. Which replay are we going back to? Alright, okay, we're going back to the big combo. On top side, Zhuo, fantastic CC combo. Rookie's right there to follow up. Feels like, oh, Xioalaohu's just dead.
Is this a 1v... Oh, it's Aki. It's just 1v1ing the enemy top laner at this point. That's not how this is meant to go. NIP now with a fantastic position to just shred through this tower. Obviously, not got Herald just yet, but those 6 grubs are really starting to pay off.
So, it's a really split map in terms of the gold that we've been given. NIP now have 6 grub buffs, that'll be very powerful for them, but the dragon stacking from FPX and on a mountain rift as well, that's going to be a late game win condition in its own right. NIP, they are going to have to use the investment of the time which they put towards those grubs really well now, because if you're going to be playing towards late game dragon fights, you're going to have to stack them up more against the team who's already got 2 early. They need to make sure they can actually hit towers to make sure these objectives are equal.
I have to say, I am loving this series already. We're only 13 minutes in, but this has been entertaining, and I feel like, you know, we talked about FPX being a team that's willing to put the early pressure on. NIP are coming alive today. I don't feel like this is just FPX putting on the pressure and NIP responding. NIP have been making proactive plays, and I think it comes down to this rel pick that you were just talking about. The roaming from Zhuo. When you look at his champion pool so far this year, it's been Milio, it's been, you know, Tarn, Kench, Renata. He's got a few games on the Rakan, but like this style with the Nautilus, the Rakan, and now the rel coming into that mix as well, it feels so much more comfortable for NIP.
It's so funny comparing certain different supports across the LPL well in terms of how they can how they work. I'm going to use this expression top side. Because if you compare, say, Zhuo to Crisp from Weibo, you know Crisp has not won a single game on melee supports, but won pretty much every game on range supports. Sometimes just players need a certain champion pool to make the best of their kind of identity. See that Zhuo doing quite well in regards to his early roams. Of course, it has come at the cost of Photic's individual power. We now see that Photic is in the mid lane. He's pushing up towards this Herald, which is being taken by NIP. Shockwave in the mid lane, which is caught out. Deokdam only really chunked him out, but it does stop FPX having the HP to really contest early.
Herald taken by NIP. No, we don't get the fight that was perhaps brewing. Aki having that objective, though, could be dangerous. Xioalaohu has had a ton of pressure towards him. It's funny because when I looked at this draft, when I saw the Gwen there, I sort of expected it to be MilkyWay focused towards that top side. With the Senna in the bottom side, quite often you do see that kind of quote-unquote weak side bot with that, but no. It has been Aki really putting the pressure on top side. 6 Scrubs has the Herald, has ganked this lane multiple times, and it has been paying off for him, but it means gold, as you said before, is pretty much dead even. Where that gold is on the map is pretty different between the two teams, and importantly as well, those Drakes stacking in FPX's favor. So we'll be looking towards that next Drake spawn as potentially a catalyst, honestly, in this game.
I think that NIP really can't afford to give over early Dragon. Now the problem is, that means you're on a little bit of a timer to find a good fight. You've been winning well around top side, but if it comes into like a 4v4, 5v5 around a Dragon, it means that Photic has to start playing in the team fights alongside Deokdam. And Deokdam and Life right now are going to be far more impactful on the whole than this Varus, who is 0-2 and only at the Blade, which is still a good item breakpoint, but I'm really quite worried about NIP when it actually comes to the proper 5v5, so eyes on that. Eyes to see if Zhuo and Rookie can get the big combo, which stops it being about the bot lane.
Big fight potentially as Zhuo was hiding in the Herald pit there, goes in with the Magnet Storm, but it's flashed away from. MilkyWay could just walk forwards, Railgun across the team's life, flashes out safety. Great kick from MilkyWay to save his teammates. And FPX, they just get a pick and walk away.
So, what were we saying? Yeah, let's wait for Rookie and Zhuo to get the combo, which means it's not about the bot lanes. They don't get the combo, and things kind of fall apart. They do get themselves a little bit of time to take down their first tower of the game towards top side, but that's a little bit of a warning sign for the Ninjas. FPX, it feels like they're getting to a point of power when it comes to these 5v5s. How did the start? Of course, it started with Zhuo looking for that combo, but he doesn't hit the Q stun. If he hits the Q stun there, then the whole combo follows up. It's just not as easily done as it was the first time around.
No, good flash from Deokdam to survive that one. I will be looking at Deokdam this game. The helicopter sounds come into play, as they so often do. I will be looking at Deokdam this game and looking at his soul count as we go on, as he's up against Photic today. Photic, a player that he's built a reputation on this center. Feels like Deokdam, you know, up against one of the biggest center players in our league. You expect him to show a good performance today. He's going to need to.
I think he really does. As feels like Deokdam was the beneficiary of a lot of the pressure towards bot side. Now there is a obligation to carry, obligation to have some really big value in these fights, as we do have this Dragon coming up. We said, hey, got some worries about NIP. How can they fight around the big fights? They're looking for the big play. Zhuo has flash. He has his ult. He's got a lot of gold in hand as well. Herald forcing the play in mid lane.
Feels like a big commitment for the root to come out from Live here, and Aki will be punted back underneath the tower. Needlework flying across the team. Does chunk Photic in the end. Tower defended for FPX as Drake came onto the map, and it's NIP that have control of River.
So, big ultimate used from Life in the Maokai though, which means that you won't be able to start off the fight necessarily in the way that you want to. Care potentially going to teleport back onto the map, but where is he going to teleport? He's going to teleport lower into River, and that's exactly what he's going to do. NIP on the Dragon, Care on the flank.
Pop Blossom available, but no flash for Care. He's pretending to be a caster minion, but I don't think they're going to believe him here. Blast Code could get him into the play here. Photic and Rookie will be his targets. Keep your eyes on that caster minion just above the banana. Zaki tries to threaten him. Dragon still on 6k. Zhuo has found a fight, gonna fall. Magnet Storm to kick it all off. The shockwave doesn't really land though, and FPX still going strong. The Pop Blossom lands, and Photic barely surviving as Shanji jumps into the front line to carry this fight. NIP somehow still going after the Pop Blossom, and somehow will take the Drake.
I think the HP bar advantage from NIP at the end of it is really what solves it. Even though Care gets into the backline, it's only the 1-for-1. And NIP, the worries we had about the 5v5 and how it potentially could work out in FPX's favor and not theirs, those worries have been put a little bit to rest. NIP just about walk away with the Dragon and the 1-for-1.
I feel like Shanji doing a lot of the heavy lifting for NIP in this fight, the all-out. After Zhuo goes for his Magnet Storm, you see Shanji pretty much just charges through the entire FPX roster.
And even though the big combo lands, it's not quite in the follow-up from the Shockwave. He doesn't get the AoE stun afterwards as well. So it feels like the fight resets a little bit, and that means that with the big ultimates down, it means that someone like Kasante can have a lot more value as he just runs through with consistent value. NIP walk back out onto the map now. Not afraid of having a soul against them in the next 5 minutes. Really need to see now FPX. You need to try and get a side lane advantage. You're getting up towards items onto Xioalaohu and onto Care as well. Let's see how they can manage the map to finally get one of those really clean flank angles. It was almost that in the Dragon. They need just one more step, and that could really be the almost fight into the actual fight.
Life starting a fight here onto Photic. He has no cleanse available. Life is willing to go into that tower, I fear. And Photic just changed CC, but Deokdam's taking the tower the whole time. And now MilkyWay's pulled back into the action. Safeguard out of the play. Perhaps he'll go down, but no. Spider-Man's over to the chickens and survives. Dodgy dive from FPX.
Fantastic Varasol on the other side from Photic, though. Potentially, we could have had a Maokai flashing forwards, but Photic stands his ground, does the damage, the team rallies around him. FPX, bit of an awkward moment for them. They're going to be reset a little bit in regards to the plays that they can make, and they were called away from the side lanes to make that play as well, which we just said, hey, maybe they should be focusing around that one. So NIP, once again, kind of passing the test right now. It's been a little bit of a ropey game. It's been given back and forth. As we go back into this replay, it's all about this Varasol. Life opens up. It's a great opportunity onto the Varus without a really big engage tool available. But the Varasol spreading onto 3 members after it hits Care, that's the big turning play.
Fantastic from Photic. After what was a pretty tough early game, a lot of pressure put on towards him by FPX. And again, we said that this was going to be a series that tests both teams, right? FPX, who have just come off of a win against top esports. Oh, Rookie's found. Rookie's found at the bottom side. MilkyWay has the kick, has the Q. Easy as you like. Fantastic little pick from FPX.
MilkyWay has gone for the Assassin Lee Sin build in the jungle. It's the Eclipse. Doesn't give lethality anymore, but the amount of AD and the amount of damage that proc comes through means that if you are caught out like Rookie or Photic, it can just absolutely bleed to your death. Big pick. Ult now in the mid lane from Photic.
Yeah, I'm not sure they can commit to anything more there. Life just going to throw those roots as a threat.
Shanji, he's teleported towards bot lane. I think Xioalaohu might just be dead here. 2-man gang towards the bot side. Gwen's in trouble.
Okay, tier 2 taken here by Xioalaohu as he tries to escape. He's running the wrong direction. That's a lot of sustain. Aki almost went down. Xioalaohu's over the wall. Oh my god, can he actually get away from this one? Perhaps looking for an execute. The
Can he teleport out?
Procking. Shanji is moving into the play. He's so low on HP. Xioalaohu gets dashes very often. So does Shanji, but there we go. The W forward in the end finishes the job for Shanji.
So the 2v1 eventually works out for the side of NIP, but you can see that FPX, they're starting to get that power in the split fights around the map and with these individually powerful members inside lanes. Xioalaohu, we mentioned the 0-7 Fiora, it won, but that's kind of sometimes what we expect from this guy's champion.
This is a similar philosophy this game. The 0-3 Gwen, like, yeah, sure, he died, but at the end of the day, he got the tier 2. And in the meantime, his team got the tier 1 in the mid lane as well. Like, I genuinely think that was a positive trade for Xioalaohu, even though he ends up going down.
He even buys the teleport out of Shanji, you know. It is a good death. It works for them. And I really want to see FPX start to, again, pull NIP around the map. Make sure that they can't set up for the 5v5, which we're a little bit worried for FPX on if the big combo lands from Zhuo and Rookie.
Nice Q from Life, but I don't know if he survives this one as Shanji knocks him back to the team. Forces out. Piercing Darkness. Nearly called it Piercing Light there. That's the Lucian one. I do wish that they would, I get it, it's Lucian Center. I do wish that they differentiated it a little bit more.
Piercing Darkness is the Q. Is it Dawning Light? Dawning Shadow? Something like that on the ult. Either way, he doesn't have that now, and it does mean that as the Dragon is spawning, FPX down that important ultimate as we get in towards this 5v5. FPX, they don't have a flank angle. A flangle! You don't have it right now. NIP, you need to be careful if that does come to be.
Reminded me of Plane not having a phalange at this point. As Drake started by NIP. Rookie is really chunked, but in the meantime, Xioalaohu crashes away to mid tier 2. I wouldn't have hated him just threatening that objective instead, but Care on a flank right now. There's no way they know that caster minion is Care, right? Like, caster minions always do that. Trying to zone away the rest of the team as FPX just move in onto the Drake. They take it right from under Aki's nose. Life pulled over the wall by Shanji. Perhaps a pick, at least in answer for the Drake that has been stolen.
Flash force from Life just before the play, dies in the Dragon fight, but it doesn't lead to NIP being able to do anything in Photic. Oh, you gotta be so careful. And now Shanji's found Care.
Oh, which one is it? Not that one! Shanji baited and outsmarted. Classic misdirection, and he's not even playing LeBlanc.
Couple of split fights towards the end of it. As Photic, he doesn't have Flash. If MilkyWay manages to get a ward hop forward into a Q, that potentially could be death. Again, this is such a powerful Lee Sin. They found Aki now instead. That will dissuade the play.
Do you know, if Aki's not there, that is a dead Photic, because the flash before from MilkyWay would have paid off massively. And again, Xioalaohu getting all of this pressure elsewhere on the map.
Kick out in the mid lane. There is pressure on the rest of the map from FPX, but they do give up finally mid lane outer turret. Both mid lane turrets down. Of course, one of the big things which happens when mid lane turret is down, it makes it much easier to put down wards in the enemy jungle, which will lead to big plays like this. Again, a lot of this plays are based on how much vision and information NIP have. The reason they don't commit fully to this fight is because they're really afraid of the Nico flank on the bot side, which means that they can't go just piling towards the Dragon. It means that it is just a steal attempt and nothing else from NIP. They're lucky that Shanji gets the Uber for Life, take him into danger, take him into harm's way, and gets the kill, at least in recompense for the Dragon.
Other taxi services are available.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I was Life, I'm not giving a good review.
No, definitely not. 4 stars at this point. Which, you know, that's the end of the driver's career, the poor guy. 26 minutes on the clock does mean Baron is in play, and you can see both teams very aware of that fact, looking for vision control at this stage. And right now, it's NIP that have it. But I am loving that we are literally 200 gold apart in this game, Nymeara, as NIP start the Baron.
And NIP are forcing this play while FPX don't have topside vision. Xioalaohu on the bot side, they're looking to force his teleport, but actually they can finish the Baron. FPX, they're way too slow to respond to this.
Honestly, at this point, it's Xioalaohu. He's just off in the side lane. He's got a negative scoreline, but he's going for an in-hip tower. In the meantime, Zhuo has been caught out. This is a 4v5 that FPX are starting right now, but they just want to stop the recalls. Rookie cannot get back to base. MilkyWay now threatening his Rookie, caught up by the Pop Blossom. That's a bit of damage coming out from Care. And in the meantime, Xioalaohu's just going to try.
He's ending the game!
They're doing it again, Nymeara! How can this keep happening? Xioalaohu forced away this time. The needlework just ain't enough. And now on the opposite side of the map, Aki in a 3v1. Shanji threatening onto Kev. He can't quite close the gap. Aki goes down. Rookie, the next target as Life closes the gap. Deokdam still going strong. And FPX, not only do they take an Nexus tower, they take the fight off of the back of the Baron. This will be 3 for them as Shanji desperately tries to get onto Deokdam. There's just no way. FPX, they are playing the map beautifully.
The Flames of the Phoenix put up such a smoke screen that NIP don't know what to do around the random map plays. FPX got damn near end the game. The Baron power play is at 0 right now after the immediate gold of the kills goes right the way of FPX. It's a good timing for them. They get a great amount of damage onto the Baron because they have the on-hit Varus. Things get weird after this. Care dodges out on the Varus ultimate because he hides as a minion this time. And that means that that's one of the big pick tools gone. Things get really weird after this point, though, because FPX, they're not really committing to a single target. The big point here is that Aki uses his frontline ultimate very early into the fight. Doesn't really mean that they can fight back beyond this point. He's forced to all in, he doesn't have any dashes out of his way to safety, but because Rookie is solo HP and he doesn't really have a frontline at this point, he can't really play around this either. And honestly, credit to FPX managing to pick up the pieces with their extra mobility and follow up skirmish kind of damage.
Absolutely phenomenal, and like really, really great. Obviously great by Xioalaohu to put the pressure on in the first place, but great non-committal fighting from FPX as well. In essentially the 4v5 to start with, a couple of the recalls come on through, and then committing to the fight. Like keeping it close enough where NIP can't all escape, but then committing at the right time. Deokdam keeping his distance, getting so much damage down in the extended skirmish. And FPX, I mean, this map play has been fantastic to witness. It was great against top esports. And the 0-4 Gwen getting so much done is just phenomenal to see.
I swear Xioalaohu, his KDA is just inversely proportional to how well FPX are actually doing. When he's feeding, oh, you know it's a good game for FPX. And now with Dragon coming up, FPX being able to stunt out the Baron push as well and keep vision control on bot side, they're looking towards, at minimum, Mountain Soul being threatened. And they can also still threaten the rest of the map with Xioalaohu back in top lane with teleport.
If FPX win this game, I really hope that we get an interview with Xioalaohu. I want to hear from him. I want to hear if he's...
How does it feel to feed and still win?
I just want to know if he's like a huge Baus fan, like if he's just always watching the stream. Like it does feel inspired, that's for sure. 0 and 4 right now, 3 items on the ground. And the thing is, like, sure, you can laugh at the scoreline, but at the end of the day, this is a 3-item win now. Like, regardless of that scoreline, he is going to be terrifying. If he does join one of these team fights, that needlework will shred Photic and Rookie.
Absolutely. And this is the thing about being stuck in a side lane and getting a lot of individual tower gold. It gives you that benefit despite how the early game went. Now, Soul, Mountain, taken by FPX. They're starting to push against the Baron, which is now, of course, timed out as well. FPX, this team are so exciting to watch. If you told me this team would be playing like this just a couple of months ago, or even just a month ago before the split started, I would have called you a liar. This team is really starting to prove expectations wrong.
Certainly are. IP kind of pushed to the brink here to some extent. Photic on 3 items on the Varus. Does feel like during some of these fights he's struggling to get his targets. You know, Life, pretty much the only easy target for him to go on, even when he gets onto MilkyWay. MilkyWay is so slippery in these fights, and if he goes close to Care, he will just get one shot. It's feeling like these fights are quite tough on the side of NIP.
And one of the big reasons for that is look at the gold which MilkyWay has even in the jungle too. With the build he's gotten, the kills he's gotten, and the way he's performing in the fights, he's always managing to threaten one of these carries, the Orianna or the Varus. If you get hit by a Lee Sin Q, because of the Eclipse, because of the Sundered Sky and the Starets built up now as well, the amount of stats which MilkyWay are bringing through to you, you can genuinely be assassinated. NIP needs to be so very careful not to give too many angles to FPX. And the problem is, there are a lot of angles you have to watch. You have to watch Xioalaohu potentially on a flank, or, you know, ending the game. You've got Care on the Nico, who's, you know, been a minion on the flank and not always gotten the big teamfight ultimates, but the threat is there. And you've also got MilkyWay, and while all that's happened, you've got the Maokai ult flying at you from the front. NIP feels like everywhere they have to stand is treacherous terrain.
It does feel that way. I just want to quickly point out as well, Deokdam on 121 souls right now. He's getting real close to the 125 mark. That is a big old spike for the Senna. He's already got the opportunity there, headed towards some armor penetration as well. Xioalaohu could be picked off. This Rookie was waiting in the brush there. Recently, we did see Rookie finishing off that death cap. Now, the shockwaves this game, honestly, we saw the one early on. Since that point, they've not been particularly notable. Despite Rookie, you know, having a great laning phase, getting up in CS as he always does, not seen that much from him this game in terms of the team fights.
Part of the reason for that is the team composition of FPX don't have to clump up. You're probably going to have the Senna stood behind the Maokai, but besides that, who else really wants to be stood together? Well, you want Care on one flank, MilkyWay also on the flank too. Who's really going to be corralled into the same position? It means that it's much harder for NIB to kind of like prey on the instincts of the enemy team comp to get a good combo. Now, realistically, they might just be looking at a Baron steal, but I think FPX, they're pretty happy to just sit here, not finish the Baron, and give some time for Xioalaohu to work out an advantage in the bot lane.
I mean, the thing is, they can sit and DPS this all day long. Senna is just going to keep MilkyWay topped up. And in the meantime, pressuring all 3 lanes. You saw Life was pushing the mid lane as Care goes top of Xioalaohu bot. And in the meantime, MilkyWay and Deokdam just continue to DPS the Baron. NIP, their macro knowledge is being tested right now, and Zhuo caught out 2 ultimates to take that support, but honestly, maybe worth it. In the meantime, Shanji's looking for a solo kill in the bottom left corner. Rail got across the team, and a is huge. Photic flashes into the enemy lines as Deokdam finishes the kill. Shockwave only onto 1 from Rookie, and this is disaster from the side of NIP right now. Life is trying to find another 1v1. He already killed Photic, and he do the same to the mid lane, and no, Rookie gets out with his life, but Aki left alone, and the carries move in to sweep up the kills.
The only thing which saves the game is that Shanji gets the solo kill. Xioalaohu's at 0 and 5. Sadly, this was probably not a good death, but either way, FPX, they don't finish the Baron, but they get so many kills, they're still going to be very happy with how this played out. They're going to reset, use some of that kill gold, go back out onto the map, a secure vision control again, and probably just do the same damn play again. And they can keep doing that up until Elder really spawns in the next few minutes. It's going to be maybe a breaking point in this game. What happened down here, though? Xioalaohu, does he end up even getting the inhibitor out of this? I can't remember if it actually fell in live. He was focusing a lot of his DPS on the structure itself. Shanji says, okay, I know you've got a lot of items, but you still have to pay attention to me. And Shanji, one of his most successful champions, manages to just about win out this 1v1 and hold on to the game.
Very well kited there by Shanji. Not staying long enough for Xioalaohu to just stack the Conqueror, stack the passive, and get the big snips off with the true damage. Trying to play it very slowly, using those Qs effectively. Here we go, Life going to use the ultimate to try and zone away. This is Elder Dragon, Mountain Soul already in play for FPX. We're just going to 50-50.
There's no smite.
This is a disaster, and MilkyWay takes it. Disaster for NIP as Deokdam taken over the wall. Shanji at least gets one. 1 for 1 so far in this player's care, looking for Shanji. He's not going to let him get away with this one. Shanji doesn't have an escape route right now, and with FPX, full Elder buffs in play. There's the Pot Blossom, the route to follow. MilkyWay here to help with the kill, but he misses the Q. This is going a little longer than you would hope with Elder Dragon in play, but there we go, finally taken down.
NIP, they didn't have Arki there for the Elder itself, so they didn't have the smite. They're trying to rush Baron, get the recalls, and go back to base. But if Care can stop this, we're going to have another situation where FPX win a game with the enemy team stuck out on the map.
Oh god, this is disastrous. Photic will go down. They're going to be able to get Aki as well. There's no way out of this one, I fear. No flash available for him, but no flash for Care either. Movement speed comes in. Can he find the route? The Tangle Barbs, ever so slightly short. In the meantime, Xioalaohu and MilkyWay trying to end the game. This is why I love watching FPX. Every single game is a banger. Rookie is caught. The shockwave, it only hits one, and it's just not enough. A double kill as Xioalaohu repairs a little bit of damage to his KDA from this game. But my god, what a ridiculous game of League of Legends. I absolutely love it.
They can't keep getting away with it. They played through this top lane champion of the Gwen, despite the fact that they start off with so many deaths. It doesn't matter how many deaths are in that one column. It's just a number. FPX win the game through fancy macro once again.
I feel like maybe NIP didn't watch the top esports